Welcome to Profit and Frames, the channel where every movie breakdown is also a financial breakdown. In today's deep dive, we're not just giving you the ending explained. We're giving you the return on investment (ROI) analysis that proves its genius. In the classic hit The Godfather 1972, starring the legendary Marlon Brando as Don Vito Corleone and a then-unknown Al Pacino as Michael Corleone, audiences experienced a landmark release from Paramount Pictures. Directed by the visionary Francis Ford Coppola, best known for other masterpieces like Apocalypse Now and The Conversation, this film wasn't just one of the hit movies of 1972. It was a cultural and cinematic event that redefined the crime genre forever. Even decades later, its towering influence is still compared to other major films and franchises, showing its lasting impact on global cinema and modern streaming platforms like Netflix, HBO, and Amazon Prime, where new generations of movie fans continue to discover its brilliance. The journey of The Godfather 1972 is a masterclass in filmmaking, a story that grips you from the opening scene and never lets go. When The Godfather 1972 was released, it faced a field of strong competitors. Films like the Oscar-winning musical Cabaret and the disaster blockbuster The Poseidon Adventure were major box office hits. Yet, Francis Ford Coppola's epic saga about the Corleone crime family didn't just compete. It dominated. It became the highest-grossing film of all time, a true blockbuster movie that reshaped the financial fortunes of Paramount Pictures. The narrative of The Godfather 1972 centers on the powerful patriarch Don Vito Corleone, played with quiet menace by Marlon Brando, and his youngest son Michael Corleone, portrayed by Al Pacino in a career-defining role. The supporting cast was a perfect ensemble, featuring James Caan as the hot-headed Sonny Corleone, Robert Duvall as the loyal consigliere Tom Hagen, and Diane Keaton as Michael's civilian girlfriend, Kay Adams. Each performance is a crucial piece of this intricate puzzle. For film enthusiasts and those searching for movie breakdowns, The Godfather 1972 offers endless layers to analyze. From its meticulous cinematography, which painted the world of organized crime in rich, dark tones, to its powerful script, every element was crafted to perfection. Fans still engage in movie spoilers discussion about its most shocking moments, and the film has spawned countless movie fan theories that are debated to this day. It's one of those timeless movies that feels as relevant now as it did 50 years ago, which is why it consistently appears on movie ranking lists as one of the all-time great movies. The cultural impact is undeniable, with iconic movie scenes and lines of dialogue becoming a permanent part of our lexicon. You don't have to be a die-hard cinema fan to have heard the phrase, "I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse." That is the power of The Godfather 1972. This film is more than just a nostalgic film, it is a genre-defining classic. Before Francis Ford Coppola's masterpiece, gangster films were often pulpy and straightforward. The Godfather 1972 elevated the genre to the level of Shakespearean tragedy, exploring themes of family, power, loyalty, and the corrosion of the American dream. This depth is why it remains one of the most rewatchable movies ever made, with viewers discovering new details upon every screening. For modern audiences looking for popular movies right now, it's a crucial piece of film history that explains the DNA of so many contemporary shows and films, from The Sopranos to the work of Martin Scorsese. The legacy of The Godfather 1972 is so immense that even its behind-the-scenes story has become the stuff of legend, a testament to the chaotic, brilliant, and ultimately triumphant process that brought this cinematic masterpiece to the screen. But beyond the screen, the story of The Godfather 1972 is one of the greatest financial underdog stories in Hollywood history. When we look at this film not as a work of art but as a financial asset, the numbers are just as dramatic as the plot itself. Let's break down the investment profile of what would become one of the most profitable ventures Paramount Pictures ever undertook. The film was made with a production budget estimated to be around $6 million. In today's terms, that's a modest sum, but in 1972, for a studio that was in serious financial trouble, it was a massive gamble. The financial risk associated with this project was extraordinarily high, a fact that would have made any initial global gross forecast look incredibly conservative. The studio was betting a significant portion of its capital on a dark, violent, 3-hour drama with a notoriously difficult lead actor and a director they nearly fired multiple times. The film's financing structure was straightforward. It was 100% studio financed by Paramount Pictures. This meant that Paramount shouldered all the risk, but it also meant they retained the entirety of the project's equity stake valuation. If the film failed, it could have crippled the studio. If it succeeded, the rewards would be entirely theirs. From an investor's perspective, this was a high-risk, high-reward play. The primary monetization streams at the time were the theatrical box office release and subsequent international sales. A successful film in that era might have been projected to earn $50 or $60 million worldwide. Based on that, a safe global gross forecast for The Godfather 1972 would have likely been in that range, promising a solid but not landscape-altering return. This is where the financial narrative takes a legendary turn. The Godfather 1972 didn't just meet its box office projections, it shattered them, earning between $250 to $290 million in its initial run. This phenomenal performance provides one of the most staggering examples of return on investment (ROI), return on investment in cinema history. On a $6 million investment, a return of over $250 million represents an return on investment (ROI) of over 4,000%. Such profitability metrics are almost unheard of. This single film didn't just turn a profit, it single-handedly saved Paramount Pictures from the brink of bankruptcy and altered its financial trajectory for decades to come. The initial, conservative global gross forecast was obliterated, replaced by a reality that no one could have predicted. Consequently, the equity stake valuation of The Godfather 1972 transformed overnight. What was once a risky $6 million line item on Paramount's books became a crown jewel IP worth hundreds of millions. This explosion in value wasn't just limited to the first film. The overwhelming success guaranteed sequels, creating a franchise that would become a perpetual revenue generator through home video, television rights, and merchandising for the next 50 years. The initial investment wasn't just for one movie. It was the seed capital for a multi-billion-dollar financial legacy. The final equity stake valuation of the franchise is a testament to how a creatively audacious but financially risky project can become one of the most valuable assets in a studio's portfolio. Proving that sometimes the greatest financial gambles yield the greatest returns. No movie breakdown of The Godfather 1972 can begin without discussing its legendary cast. A collection of talent so perfectly assembled it feels like an act of fate. At the center of this cinematic universe stands Marlon Brando in his monumental, Oscar-winning role as Don Vito Corleone. Brando's performance is the anchor of the entire film. He embodies the quiet power, wisdom, and ruthlessness of the patriarch with a subtlety that has been studied by actors for generations. For movie lovers, his portrayal is more than just acting. It's a complete transformation that defined the character for all time. This was a stunning comeback for Brando, whose previous major roles in classic movies like On the Waterfront had established him as an icon but whose recent career had faltered. His work in The Godfather 1972 instantly made it one of the all-time great movies and cemented his legacy forever. But the true narrative engine of The Godfather 1972 is the journey of Michael Corleone, brought to life by a young and relatively unknown Al Pacino. His character represents the reluctant heir, the decorated war hero who insists he is not part of the family business, only to be inexorably drawn into its dark heart. Pacino's performance is a masterclass in transformation, as we watch the idealistic young man slowly shed his morality to become a cold and calculating leader. This was the role that launched Pacino into superstardom, leading to an incredible actor filmography that includes hit movies like Serpico and Scarface, many of which are now considered rewatchable movies available on major streaming platforms. The casting news at the time was filled with controversy, as Paramount Pictures heavily resisted hiring an unknown for such a pivotal role, but director Francis Ford Coppola fought for him, a decision that proved to be one of the most important in cinema history. Surrounding these two titans is an ensemble cast that is flawless from top to bottom. James Caan plays the fiery and impulsive Sonny Corleone, the heir apparent whose explosive temper becomes his tragic undoing. Robert Duvall gives a powerfully understated performance as Tom Hagen, the adopted son and consigliere, whose calm logic provides a stark contrast to the family's violent world. And Diane Keaton portrays Kay Adams, Michael's girlfriend and later wife, who serves as the audience's window into the civilian world, her horror reflecting our own as she watches the man she loves descend into darkness. The chemistry between these actors is electric, making the Corleone family feel real, lived in, and utterly believable. This dynamic is a key reason why The Godfather 1972 is such a fan-favorite movie, as the family drama is just as compelling as the crime story. The movie trivia surrounding the casting of The Godfather 1972 is the stuff of Hollywood legend. Fans speculate that without Coppola's relentless vision, we might have seen a completely different film, perhaps with a more conventional star like Robert Redford as Michael. The studio's initial resistance and Coppola's passionate defense of his choices created a high-stakes environment that seemed to fuel the raw energy of the performances. The result is a film that doesn't just entertain but resonates on a deep, emotional level. For film enthusiasts, analyzing the performances in The Godfather 1972 is an endless source of fascination, as each viewing reveals new layers and nuances. It is a timeless movie precisely because its characters are so complex and human, making their story of power, family, and betrayal universally understood and eternally compelling. From a financial perspective, the casting strategy for The Godfather 1972 was as revolutionary and high-stakes as its artistic choices, centered on a brilliant and now famous use of back-end participation. For investors, this film serves as a masterclass in mitigating upfront costs while maximizing potential returns. Back-end participation is a form of compensation where talent, typically a major star or director, agrees to a significantly lower upfront salary in exchange for a percentage of the film's gross profits. This aligns the financial interests of the talent with the studio. If the film is a massive success, everyone shares in the windfall. For a studio like Paramount that was financially struggling, this was an essential tool for managing risk while still securing the high-profile talent needed to market the film. The most prominent example of this was the deal struck with Marlon Brando. His upfront actor salary was reportedly a mere $50,000, an astonishingly low figure for a star of his stature, even a diminished one. This dramatically reduced the studio's upfront financial exposure. However, his contract included a crucial clause for back-end participation, granting him a percentage of the box office gross. This single contractual detail turned a modest payday into a multi-million-dollar jackpot. When the film became the highest-grossing movie of all time, Brando's share was estimated to be between $1.5 to $2 million. This demonstrates the immense power of back-end participation as an incentive. For the studio, the star power return on investment (ROI) was astronomical. They secured an Oscar-winning, legacy-defining performance for a minimal guaranteed cost, only paying out a larger sum once the film's success was already assured. This sophisticated approach to talent compensation was a cornerstone of the film's profitability analysis. By keeping fixed costs like actor salaries low, Paramount protected its downside. The casting risk with Brando was immense. He had a reputation for being difficult and his recent films had underperformed. A standard multi-million-dollar salary would have been a reckless gamble. But by shifting the bulk of his potential earnings to back-end participation, the studio transformed that risk. The deal essentially said, "We are betting on the success of the film, not just your past reputation." If the film had failed, the financial loss on Brando's salary would have been negligible. Since it succeeded beyond anyone's wildest dreams, the payout from his back-end participation was a small price to pay for a film that saved the entire company. In stark contrast, the deals for the younger, unknown actors like Al Pacino and James Caan did not include significant back-end participation. Their estimated salaries were around $35,000 each. They lacked the leverage of a major star and their compensation was a straightforward, low-cost acquisition of talent. From a financial standpoint, this was another strategic victory for Paramount. They were essentially acquiring future A-list assets at rock-bottom prices. This two-tiered strategy offering back-end participation to the one-name actor to secure his involvement at a low upfront cost, while paying scale to the rest of the brilliant but unknown ensemble was a masterstroke of budget management. It allowed the production to have the prestige of a star like Brando without the crippling upfront cost, creating a financial structure that was both lean and potent, ultimately leading to one of the most profitable cinematic investments of all time. No movie breakdown of The Godfather 1972 can begin without discussing its legendary cast. A collection of talent so perfectly assembled it feels like an act of fate. At the center of this cinematic universe stands Marlon Brando in his monumental, Oscar-winning role as Don Vito Corleone. Brando's performance is the anchor of the entire film. He embodies the quiet power, wisdom, and ruthlessness of the patriarch with a subtlety that has been studied by actors for generations. For movie lovers, his portrayal is more than just acting. It's a complete transformation that defined the character for all time. This was a stunning comeback for Brando, whose previous major roles in classic movies like On the Waterfront had established him as an icon but whose recent career had faltered. His work in The Godfather 1972 instantly made it one of the all-time great movies and cemented his legacy forever. But the true narrative engine of The Godfather 1972 is the journey of Michael Corleone, brought to life by a young and relatively unknown Al Pacino. His character represents the reluctant heir, the decorated war hero who insists he is not part of the family business, only to be inexorably drawn into its dark heart. Pacino's performance is a masterclass in transformation, as we watch the idealistic young man slowly shed his morality to become a cold and calculating leader. This was the role that launched Pacino into superstardom, leading to an incredible actor filmography that includes hit movies like Serpico and Scarface, many of which are now considered rewatchable movies available on major streaming platforms. The casting news at the time was filled with controversy, as Paramount Pictures heavily resisted hiring an unknown for such a pivotal role, but director Francis Ford Coppola fought for him, a decision that proved to be one of the most important in cinema history. Surrounding these two titans is an ensemble cast that is flawless from top to bottom. James Caan plays the fiery and impulsive Sonny Corleone, the heir apparent whose explosive temper becomes his tragic undoing. Robert Duvall gives a powerfully understated performance as Tom Hagen, the adopted son and consigliere, whose calm logic provides a stark contrast to the family's violent world. And Diane Keaton portrays Kay Adams, Michael's girlfriend and later wife, who serves as the audience's window into the civilian world, her horror reflecting our own as she watches the man she loves descend into darkness. The chemistry between these actors is electric, making the Corleone family feel real, lived in, and utterly believable. This dynamic is a key reason why The Godfather 1972 is such a fan-favorite movie, as the family drama is just as compelling as the crime story. The movie trivia surrounding the casting of The Godfather 1972 is the stuff of Hollywood legend. Fans speculate that without Coppola's relentless vision, we might have seen a completely different film, perhaps with a more conventional star like Robert Redford as Michael. The studio's initial resistance and Coppola's passionate defense of his choices created a high-stakes environment that seemed to fuel the raw energy of the performances. The result is a film that doesn't just entertain but resonates on a deep, emotional level. For film enthusiasts, analyzing the performances in The Godfather 1972 is an endless source of fascination, as each viewing reveals new layers and nuances. It is a timeless movie precisely because its characters are so complex and human, making their story of power, family, and betrayal universally understood and eternally compelling. From a financial perspective, the casting strategy for The Godfather 1972 was as revolutionary and high-stakes as its artistic choices, centered on a brilliant and now famous use of back-end participation. For investors, this film serves as a masterclass in mitigating upfront costs while maximizing potential returns. Back-end participation is a form of compensation where talent, typically a major star or director, agrees to a significantly lower upfront salary in exchange for a percentage of the film's gross profits. This aligns the financial interests of the talent with the studio, If the film is a massive success, everyone shares in the windfall. For a studio like Paramount that was financially struggling, this was an essential tool for managing risk while still securing the high-profile talent needed to market the film. The most prominent example of this was the deal struck with Marlon Brando. His upfront actor salary was reportedly a mere $50,000, an astonishingly low figure for a star of his stature, even a diminished one. This dramatically reduced the studio's upfront financial exposure. However, his contract included a crucial clause for back-end participation, granting him a percentage of the box office gross. This single contractual detail turned a modest payday into a multi-million-dollar jackpot. When the film became the highest-grossing movie of all time, Brando's share was estimated to be between $1.5 to $2 million. This demonstrates the immense power of back-end participation as an incentive. For the studio, the star power return on investment (ROI) was astronomical. They secured an Oscar-winning, legacy-defining performance for a minimal guaranteed cost, only paying out a larger sum once the film's success was already assured. This sophisticated approach to talent compensation was a cornerstone of the film's profitability analysis. By keeping fixed costs like actor salaries low, Paramount protected its downside. The casting risk with Brando was immense. He had a reputation for being difficult and his recent films had underperformed. A standard multi-million-dollar salary would have been a reckless gamble. But by shifting the bulk of his potential earnings to back-end participation, the studio transformed that risk. The deal essentially said, "We are betting on the success of the film, not just your past reputation." If the film had failed, the financial loss on Brando's salary would have been negligible. Since it succeeded beyond anyone's wildest dreams, the payout from his back-end participation was a small price to pay for a film that saved the entire company. In stark contrast, the deals for the younger, unknown actors like Al Pacino and James Caan did not include significant back-end participation. Their estimated salaries were around $35,000 each. They lacked the leverage of a major star and their compensation was a straightforward, low-cost acquisition of talent. From a financial standpoint, this was another strategic victory for Paramount. They were essentially acquiring future A-list assets at rock-bottom prices. This two-tiered strategy offering back-end participation to the one-name actor to secure his involvement at a low upfront cost, while paying scale to the rest of the brilliant but unknown ensemble was a masterstroke of budget management. It allowed the production to have the prestige of a star like Brando without the crippling upfront cost, creating a financial structure that was both lean and potent, ultimately leading to one of the most profitable cinematic investments of all time. To truly understand the legacy of The Godfather, 1972, we have to go beyond the iconic performances and look at the engine that drives it all. Its masterful story, providing a simple The Godfather 1972 plot summary doesn't do it justice. This isn't just a gangster film, it's an American epic, a dense and tragic narrative breakdown of a family's soul. The story begins at the wedding of Michael Corleone, a vibrant scene that introduces us to the entire Corleone clan and their world of influence. We meet the powerful patriarch Don Vito Corleone and his sons. The hot-headed Sonny, the weak Vito, and the youngest, Michael, a decorated war hero who tells his girlfriend Kay that the family's illicit business is not me. This statement becomes the central tragedy of the entire story breakdown. The inciting incident is the attempted assassination of Don Vito, a brutal act that leaves a power vacuum and pulls Michael, the reluctant outsider, into the violent heart of his family's empire to protect his father. The screenplay analysis of The Godfather 1972, penned by Mario Puzo and Francis Ford Coppola, is a lesson in efficiency and power. Every scene serves a purpose, every line of dialogue reveals character and advances the plot. The film's movie themes are profound and timeless. The corruption of the American dream, the inescapable pull of family destiny, and the moral compromises made in the name of power. These themes elevate it far above typical films in the crime genre. While similar movies like Warner Bros. Goodfellas or Netflix's The Irishman explore the world of organized crime with brilliant detail, The Godfather 1972 treats its subjects with the gravity of a Shakespearean tragedy. It's less about the mechanics of the mob and more about the corrosion of one man's soul. Michael Corleone's transformation is the core of this narrative. and Al Pacino's performance perfectly captures this descent from a bright-eyed idealist to a cold, ruthless leader whose eyes are, as Kay later describes them, dead. Now, for those searching for the Godfather 1972 ending explained, the final moments of the film are among the most powerful and chilling in cinema history. This section will contain major spoilers, so be warned. The climax is a masterful sequence of cross-cutting, juxtaposing the baptism of Michael's nephew where he stands as Godfather, renouncing Satan with the brutal, systematic assassination of all his family's enemies. It's a visual representation of his dual nature, the family protector and the merciless killer. But the true ending is the final shot. After lying to his wife Kay about his involvement in the murders, she leaves the room and his capos enter to pay their respects, kissing his hand and calling him Don Corleone. As an associate closes the office door, the camera lingers on Kay's face as she realizes the man she married is gone forever, replaced by a monster. The door closing is a powerful visual metaphor, shutting her and the audience out of Michael's dark world. There is no triumph here, only the profound tragedy of his victory. This is the definitive ending explained. Michael has saved his family's power but has irrevocably lost himself. This ambiguous and dark conclusion has fueled decades of discussion and is a major reason why The Godfather 1972 fan theories continue to circulate. A central debate among fans is whether Michael truly had a choice. Was his path preordained by his bloodline and circumstances, or was there a moment he could have turned back? Many point to the murder of his first wife, Apollonia, in Sicily as the point of no return, a tragedy that stripped away his remaining innocence. Other fan theories delve into the motivations of characters like Vito, questioning the extent of his betrayal in the first film. This level of narrative depth, where character motivations remain ripe for debate 50 years later, is a testament to the brilliance of its franchise-level storytelling. Unlike films that wrap everything up neatly, The Godfather 1972 leaves you with haunting questions. It doesn't have a post-credit scene because it doesn't need one. The final image of the closing door is the perfect, chilling cliffhanger that guaranteed audiences would return for a sequel. From an investor's standpoint, a story as powerful as The Godfather 1972 is not just a creative achievement. It is a foundational financial asset. The screenplay is the blueprint for a multi-billion-dollar enterprise, and its strategic value can be analyzed through its cost, risk, and long-term potential. The script development cost for this project represents one of the most brilliant acquisitions in Hollywood history. Paramount Pictures purchased the film rights to Mario Puzo's novel for an estimated $80,000 in 1969. This was before the book became a cultural phenomenon and a massive bestseller. This small, early investment secured the underlying intellectual property for a fraction of what it would soon be worth. This figure highlights an incredible story development return on investment (ROI), where an initial five-figure expense laid the groundwork for a franchise that would go on to generate billions. Even factoring in the subsequent screenwriting fees for Puzo and Coppola, the all-in cost for the story was remarkably low, making the final profits even more staggering. However, the story was not without significant creative risk. In the early 1970s, a nearly 3-hour film filled with brutal violence, complex moral ambiguity, and a tragic antihero for a protagonist was a dangerous commercial proposition. The conventional wisdom favored simpler, more return on investment ROI-C narratives. This dark, operatic tone could have easily alienated mainstream audiences, leading to a box office disaster. This is where we must consider the risk-return ratio. The financial risk of a potential flop was high, but the source material, a wildly popular novel, provided a crucial safety net by guaranteeing a built-in audience. Paramount's gamble was that the quality of the adaptation would overcome the story's challenging nature. The resulting critical acclaim and record-breaking box office proved their bet was a historic success, delivering a return that far outweighed the initial creative and financial risks, setting a new precedent for what a blockbuster could be. This leads directly to the story's sequel potential score, which can only be rated as a perfect 10 out of 10, or extremely high. The narrative architecture of The Godfather 1972 is a masterclass in building a franchise. By focusing on Michael's tragic rise to power, the film ends not with a conclusion but with a coronation. We've seen him win the throne, but the story leaves the most compelling question unanswered. How will he rule? This unresolved tension is the perfect foundation for a sequel. This high score is crucial because it dramatically increased the long-term franchise IP worth. The story wasn't just a self-contained product. It was the first installment of a valuable series. This potential for continuation transformed the IP valuation from that of a single hit film to that of an enduring and expandable universe, making it one of Paramount's most prized assets. Ultimately, the story's true financial power lies in the diverse avenues it opened for content monetization. A powerful story is the wellspring from which all other revenue flows. The success of the first film's narrative directly enabled the greenlighting of Part II, which itself became a critical and commercial triumph. Beyond sequels, the strength of the IP allowed for lucrative streams of content. Monetization, including record-breaking television broadcast deals, decades of home video sales, video game adaptations, and even modern streaming series about the making of the film. The story's timeless themes ensure its relevance, allowing the franchise equity valuation to remain robust and appreciate over time. The compelling narrative is the reason the property can be licensed for high-end merchandise, quoted in other media, and continuously rediscovered by new generations. The story of Michael Corleone is not just a plot. It is the engine of a perpetual financial machine, demonstrating that the most valuable asset a studio can own is a truly great story. When movie lovers talk about The Godfather 1972, they often praise the acting, the script, and the direction. But the visual language of the film is just as iconic, a masterclass in cinematic storytelling that established a new aesthetic for the crime genre. The film's unique visual style is the work of its legendary director of photography, Gordon Willis, a man so masterful with shadows he was nicknamed the Prince of Darkness. His approach to the cinematography of The Godfather 1972 was revolutionary. He chose to shoot with a dark, underexposed look using a technique known as chiaroscuro lighting design. This created deep, impenetrable shadows and warm, golden pockets of light, visually reflecting the film's themes of moral ambiguity and hidden power. You can see this most famously in the opening scene, where Don Corleone's face is barely visible, his eyes shrouded in darkness. It's a powerful choice that immediately tells the audience everything they need to know about this man's world. The film aesthetics of The Godfather 1972 are so influential that they've been imitated for decades but rarely equaled. Every frame is a work of art with a rich, painterly quality that gives the film a timeless feel. The production design meticulously recreated 1940s New York, from the grand interiors of the Corleone family mall to the gritty streets where their business is conducted. Filming locations in both New York and Sicily add an incredible layer of authenticity, grounding the epic story in a real, tangible world. For fans who love behind-the-scenes details, it's fascinating to learn that Gordon Willis and Francis Ford Coppola often clashed with the studio, who were initially horrified by the dark cinematography, fearing audiences wouldn't be able to see the actors' faces. But Willis and Coppola stood their ground, committed to a visual style that served the story above all else. This commitment to artistic integrity is what elevates The Godfather 1972 to the level of cinematic excellence. Now, when we discuss visual effects in modern cinema, we immediately think of CGI and massive VFX scenes. But in 1972, the world of visual effects was almost entirely practical. The Godfather 1972 has very few traditional VFX scenes, and there is no CGI breakdown to speak of because the technology didn't exist for filmmaking yet. Instead, the film's most shocking visual moments were achieved through clever in-camera tricks and gritty, realistic special effects. The most famous and memorable of these is, of course, the horse head scene. It's a moment of pure cinematic shock, and its power comes from its horrifying reality. A real horse's head was used in the shot. Another incredible sequence is the assassination of Sonny Corleone at the toll booth, a brutally violent and meticulously choreographed scene that used squibs and practical effects to create a visceral and unforgettable moment. These scenes showcase a different kind of visual effects artistry, one grounded in realism rather than digital fantasy. The scene composition throughout The Godfather 1972 is deliberate and masterful. Coppola and Willis often used wide shots to establish the scale of the Corleone family's power, while using intimate, shadowy close-ups to reveal their inner turmoil. The camera gear used, primarily Panavision cameras and lenses, was standard for the era, but it was the way Willis used it, the way he controlled the light and shaped the shadows, that made all the difference. Compared to the blockbuster visuals of today's superhero films, the look of The Godfather 1972 is subtle and restrained, but no less powerful. It doesn't rely on spectacle to create an impact. It uses light, shadow, and color to evoke emotion and tell a story. This masterful use of cinematography is a key reason why The Godfather 1972 remains a fan-favorite movie, a visually stunning work of art that continues to inspire filmmakers and captivate audiences a half-century later. From a financial analyst's perspective, the visual production of The Godfather 1972 is a textbook case of incredible fiscal efficiency and strategic capital allocation. The film achieved a look of immense scale and prestige on a remarkably controlled budget, which is central to its legendary profitability. The primary theme to understand here is the film's extraordinary return on investment (ROI) versus visual complexity. While modern blockbusters often equate high production value with expensive and complex visual effects, The Godfather 1972 proved that artistic vision could deliver a premium aesthetic without a premium price tag. This smart spending was a critical factor in the film's initial profitability and, by extension, its massive cumulative earnings over the subsequent 50 years. Let's start by analyzing the budget. The estimated VFX budget for The Godfather 1972 was functionally zero. As a percentage of the total $6 million production budget, dedicated visual effects spending as we know it today was non-existent. The costs for its most visual moments, like the toll booth shootout, were absorbed into the practical special effects and stunt departments, likely representing a tiny fraction, perhaps less than 1% of the overall budget. There was no CGI cost per minute because no CGI was used. Compare this to a modern blockbuster, where VFX can consume 30–50% of a $200 million budget, with a CGI cost per minute easily exceeding $1 million for complex sequences. This stark contrast highlights the film's exceptional capital allocation efficiency. The money was spent on elements that directly served the narrative, production design, costumes, and on-location shooting rather than on expensive technological flourishes. The post-production spending on the film was also remarkably efficient. The major costs here would have been film processing, editing, color grading, or timing as it was then known, and sound design. While these were significant expenses, they were predictable and manageable. The film's dark visual style, while artistically bold, was not technologically demanding in post-production. In fact, it could be argued that the commitment to a specific, naturalistic look reduced the need for extensive and costly post-production corrections. This disciplined approach meant that the film did not suffer from the runaway post-production costs that can often plague more visually complex projects. This lean spending profile is central to understanding its return on investment (ROI) versus visual complexity. The film delivered a visual experience that felt epic and expensive, yet the actual spend was contained, leading to an incredibly high return on every dollar invested in its look. This intelligent financial strategy during production had profound long-term consequences, directly fueling the film's monumental cumulative earnings. Because the initial investment was so low and the box office return was so high, Paramount was left with an enormous pool of pure profit. This profit didn't just enrich the studio, it provided the capital and the confidence to greenlight a sequel, transforming a standalone hit into a cash-generating franchise. The film's timeless, artful look has also ensured its longevity, allowing for continuous monetization through premium home video releases like 4K restorations, theatrical re-releases, and lucrative streaming licenses. These revenue streams, collected over 5 decades, contribute to the film's massive cumulative earnings. The initial smart decision to prioritize artistic vision over expensive visual effects created a highly profitable asset that has continued to pay dividends year after year. The lesson for investors is clear. The relationship between return on investment, ROI, versus visual complexity is not always linear. Sometimes the most financially successful visual strategy is not the one that costs the most, but the one that is the most artistically intelligent. Just as crucial as its dark visuals and powerful performances is the unforgettable music of The Godfather, 1972. The film's iconic score is not just background music. It is the soul of the story, a character in its own right that communicates the tragedy, romance, and menace of the Corleone family's world. The brilliant mind behind this thematic score was the legendary Italian composer Nino Rota, an artist already renowned for his work with Federico Fellini. Rota's music for The Godfather 1972 is a perfect blend of melancholic Sicilian folk melodies and grand, operatic drama. From the very first notes of the main theme, The Godfather 1972 waltz, the audience is transported. That lonely, haunting trumpet melody has become one of the most recognizable pieces of cinematic music in history, instantly synonymous with the film itself. The official soundtrack, OST, of The Godfather 1972 is a collection of memorable themes that perfectly capture the emotional arc of the film. The main waltz, with its elegant yet somber tone, represents the seductive and corrupting nature of power. Then there is the love theme, a beautiful and romantic melody that underscores Michael's time in Sicily with Apollonia, a brief, idyllic moment before tragedy strikes. This track became so popular that it was later given lyrics and released as a hit song, Speak Softly, Love. The soundtrack list also includes tense, percussive pieces that drive the film's scenes of violence and suspense, creating a powerful contrast with the more lyrical themes. This skillful use of music-driven storytelling is a key reason why the film has such a profound emotional impact. Nino Rota's score tells you what the characters are feeling even when they say nothing at all. For fans searching for the complete list of songs in movie, it's important to note that Rota's original score dominates the film, but there are also carefully chosen source cues like the traditional Italian music played at Connie's wedding that help to establish the cultural setting. The soundtrack popularity was immediate and has endured for decades. Even today, the OST for The Godfather 1972 enjoys immense streaming success on platforms like Spotify and Apple Music, where millions of listeners continue to engage with its timeless melodies. This enduring appeal speaks to the universal power of Rota's compositions. You don't need to be watching the film to feel the emotional weight of his music. It stands on its own as a masterpiece of film scoring. There's some fascinating trivia surrounding the score as well. Nino Rota's score was initially nominated for an Academy Award, but the nomination was rescinded when it was discovered that he had repurposed a theme from one of his earlier, lesser-known Italian films. While this was a controversial decision at the time, it did little to diminish the soundtrack acclaim. Rota would later win the Oscar for his equally brilliant score for The Godfather 1972, Part II. Ultimately, the music of The Godfather 1972 is a perfect example of how a composer can elevate a great film to the level of a timeless classic. It's more than just a collection of iconic tracks. It is the beating heart of a cinematic legend, and its haunting melodies will forever be intertwined with the saga of the Corleone family. From a financial perspective, the soundtrack for The Godfather 1972 is not merely an artistic element but a distinct and highly profitable ancillary asset. The music represents a powerful revenue stream that was cultivated with remarkable efficiency, generating significant returns through both active and passive monetization strategies. Analyzing the soundtrack as a standalone business unit reveals a story of savvy investment and long-term value creation, primarily driven by the high-margin opportunities of sync licensing and the perpetual, annuity-like nature of royalty income. First, let's break down the initial investment. The music budget for a film of this scale in the early 1970s would have been a modest but significant portion of the overall production cost. Based on industry benchmarks, the fee for an esteemed international composer like Nino Rota could have ranged from $25,000 to $50,000. Additionally, costs for orchestra recording sessions, music editing, and supervision would have likely brought the total music budget to an estimated $75,000 to $150,000. The key financial decision here was the music rights acquisition strategy. By commissioning an original score, Paramount Pictures retained full ownership of the musical compositions. This was a far more cost-effective and financially strategic move than licensing a series of popular pre-existing songs, where each license could cost tens of thousands of dollars and would offer no long-term ownership. This upfront investment in an original score was crucial for unlocking future revenue streams. The first major return on this investment came from direct album sales. The album sales return on investment (ROI) for the official soundtrack was immense. The album was a commercial smash hit, selling millions of copies and climbing the Billboard charts. The cost of producing and distributing the vinyl records was minimal compared to the revenue generated, making this one of the film's most profitable sidelines. But the true financial genius lies in the long-term monetization. This is where the concept of sync licensing becomes a powerful engine for active revenue generation. Sync licensing is the process of licensing a piece of music for use in other media, such as television commercials, other films, or video games. The main theme of The Godfather 1972 is instantly recognizable and emotionally potent, making it a prime candidate for high-value sync licensing deals. A single placement in a major ad campaign or another blockbuster film could command a fee estimated to be anywhere from $100,000 to over $500,000. Over 50 years, the cumulative revenue from sync licensing alone has likely dwarfed the original music budget many times over. Beyond active licensing, the soundtrack generates a steady stream of passive royalty income. Every time a track from the score is streamed on Spotify or Apple Music, played on the radio, or sold as a digital download, Paramount Pictures earns a small payment. While individually minor, these royalties accumulate into a significant and continuous revenue stream. This royalty income is the definition of a long-tail financial asset. It requires no further investment but continues to generate profit decades after the initial release. Furthermore, the iconic score creates powerful franchise synergy. The main waltz theme is the auditory signature of the entire Godfather saga. Its use in sequels and marketing materials reinforces the brand identity, enhancing the value of the entire franchise. This cross-platform revenue, where the music drives value in film, streaming, and merchandising, demonstrates how a well-crafted soundtrack is not just an expense but a strategic investment. A combination of high-margin sync licensing and consistent, passive royalty income makes the score of The Godfather 1972 a perfect example of how music can be one of the most efficient and enduringly profitable components of a film's financial portfolio. While The Godfather 1972 is celebrated as a serious, dramatic masterpiece, its cultural impact has also spawned a vibrant world of fan engagement and highly sought-after official merchandise. For a film franchise of this stature, the connection with its audience goes far beyond the screen. It becomes a part of their identity, something they want to own, wear, and celebrate. In the decades since its release, The Godfather 1972 has inspired a diverse range of collectibles that cater to every level of fandom, from the casual admirer to the serious collector. This universe of merchandise is a testament to the film's enduring legacy and its profound pop culture impact, rivaling the merchandise strategies of even the biggest modern franchises. The world of official merchandise for The Godfather 1972 is rich and varied. At the high end, you have incredibly detailed franchise collectibles such as premium statues of Marlon Brando as Don Corleone, complete with his iconic armchair and the cat on his lap. These are often limited edition releases, making them highly prized items. For those looking for something more accessible, there are stylized vinyl action figures from companies like Funko, which have become a staple for collectors of all ages. Beyond figures, there is a huge market for themed apparel, from t-shirts bearing the classic Puppet Strings logo to hoodies emblazoned with the famous quote, "I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse." These items allow fans to showcase their love for the film in their everyday lives. And of course, no collection would be complete without the iconic movie posters, which have become works of art in their own right. But modern fan engagement is about more than just buying products, it's about active participation. In the digital age, this has created a new wave of excitement around The Godfather 1972. While you might not see a viral TikTok challenge in the same way you would for a new pop song, the film's iconic scenes and lines are constantly referenced in memes and short-form video content, creating organic social media buzz. Fans create and share incredible fan art, reinterpreting the classic characters in new and creative styles. And at events like fan conventions, you will always find dedicated fans engaging in cosplay, dressing up as members of the Corleone family with impressive attention to detail. This active, creative participation is what keeps the legacy of The Godfather 1972 alive and relevant for new generations. The merchandise hype surrounding The Godfather 1972 often peaks around major anniversaries, which see the release of exclusive drops and newly restored home media editions. These events are often supported by social media campaigns that reignite conversation and drive both new and old fans to engage with the franchise. It's this constant cycle of rediscovery and celebration that makes the world of The Godfather 1972 collectibles so dynamic. It proves that even a dark, character-driven drama from 1972 can inspire the same level of passionate fan engagement as a massive sci-fi or fantasy saga. For the fans, this merchandise is more than just stuff. It's a tangible connection to a story and a set of characters that have left an indelible mark on cinematic history. From a business perspective, merchandise and fan engagement are not just cultural byproducts. They are a highly lucrative and strategically vital component of the franchise's financial ecosystem. The monetization of The Godfather 1972's brand is a masterclass in leveraging intellectual property, centered on a low-risk, high-margin model of licensing and royalties. This strategy has allowed Paramount Pictures to generate hundreds of millions in additional revenue over the decades, all driven by the organic passion of the fanbase, which creates a powerful and self-sustaining fan-driven return on investment (ROI). The primary engine of this revenue stream is the licensed product royalty model. In this business arrangement, the studio does not manufacture, distribute, or sell the merchandise itself. Instead, it licenses the rights to use The Godfather 1972's name, characters, and imagery to third-party companies that specialize in creating products like toys, apparel, or collectibles. In exchange for this license, the studio receives a licensed product royalty, which is a percentage of the revenue from all sales. Based on industry benchmarks, this royalty rate typically ranges from 8% to 15% of the wholesale price. This is an incredibly efficient business model because it externalizes all the risk and operational costs. Paramount doesn't have to worry about inventory, manufacturing, or retail logistics. It simply collects a check. This consistent stream of high-margin income is a perfect example of how a powerful brand can be monetized with minimal capital expenditure. To understand the scale, let's look at some projected sales figures. While specific numbers for The Godfather 1972 are not public, we can use industry comparisons. For a globally recognized franchise, a line of high-quality action figures or collectibles can easily generate tens of millions of dollars in retail sales. Applying a conservative 10% licensed product royalty rate to, say, $50 million in sales would yield $5 million in pure high-margin profit for the studio. Now, expand that across dozens of product categories: apparel, posters, video games, casino slot machines, and over a span of 50 years. The cumulative income from the licensed product royalty stream becomes a monumental figure, adding significantly to the franchise's overall profitability. The success of this entire operation hinges on strong retail partnerships. A licensing deal is only as valuable as the distribution network behind it. Securing placement in major global retailers like Walmart, Target, and Amazon is critical for maximizing sales volume. These partnerships ensure that The Godfather 1972 merchandise is visible and accessible to a massive consumer base, turning niche collectibles into mainstream products. However, the most powerful force driving these sales is not a paid marketing campaign but the organic passion of the audience. This is the concept of fan-driven return on investment (ROI). When fans create memes, engage in cosplay, or generate social media buzz, they are essentially providing free, highly authentic marketing for the brand. This organic engagement keeps the IP culturally relevant and creates a constant demand for merchandise, directly boosting the return on investment for the entire licensing program. This powerful synergy where fan passion fuels a low-risk licensed product royalty model is the financial genius behind the enduring commercial success of The Godfather 1972's merchandising empire. It's a perfect feedback loop, where cultural impact and commercial profit endlessly reinforce each other. The official movie trailer for The Godfather 1972, dropping with teaser release moments that sparked massive fan buzz, set the stage for a premiere event rivaling any competitor's press tour excitement, while the word-of-mouth social media campaign of its day built theatrical release hype across the globe. The marketing for this film was a masterclass in selling a complex, adult drama to a mass audience. The initial teaser release and full movie trailer were works of art in themselves. They didn't rely on explosive action. Instead, they built an atmosphere of suspense and gravitas. The trailers focused on the mysterious, shadowy presence of Marlon Brando as Don Corleone, his raspy voice delivering the iconic line, "I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse." This immediately created a sense of intrigue. Fan reactions were not measured in online views but in palpable anticipation and intense discussion, establishing The Godfather 1972 as a must-see event long before its release. The promotional materials, including striking vintage posters and strategic TV spots, continued this theme. The now famous puppet strings logo became a powerful and instantly recognizable symbol of the film's themes of power and manipulation. Unlike modern campaigns that might saturate the airwaves, the TV spots for The Godfather 1972 were carefully placed to reach a mature audience, selling the film as a serious, prestigious cinematic experience. The campaign culminated in a high-profile premiere event in New York City, which generated enormous press coverage and solidified the film's status as a major cultural happening. This was far more than a standard movie opening. It felt like a significant moment in film history, and the energy from that premiere was electric. Paramount Pictures employed a brilliant strategy for the film's theatrical release. Instead of a wide opening, they opted for a limited platform release, initially opening in just a handful of theaters in major cities. This move was a stroke of genius. The incredible reviews and overwhelming audience reactions created a firestorm of buzz. This word of mouth was the 1972 equivalent of a viral social media campaign. People were talking about it everywhere, and the long lines snaking around the block at theaters became news stories in themselves. This intense, organic hype created a sense of scarcity and urgency, making everyone want to see the film that was causing such a sensation. Only after this initial period of intense buzz did the studio expand to a worldwide release, by which point the demand for The Godfather 1972 was astronomical. The film didn't just open. It erupted into the cultural consciousness, becoming a global phenomenon. Its legacy continues today with its eventual streaming debut on platforms like Paramount+, where it consistently finds a new audience, proving that a masterful release strategy can ensure a film's relevance for generations. From a financial standpoint, the marketing and distribution of The Godfather 1972 is a legendary case study in how a strategic and efficient investment can yield astronomical returns. The success of this film was not accidental. It was driven by a calculated spend and a brilliant release strategy that maximized profitability at every stage. The entire financial story of its release revolves around two core concepts: the initial investment, or the P&A budget, and the incredible return it generated, the marketing spend return on investment (ROI). First, let's analyze the investment. The P&A budget, which stands for prints and advertising, is the fund dedicated to marketing a film and distributing physical copies to theaters. For a major film in 1972, this was a significant expense. Based on industry benchmarks of the era, the P&A budget for The Godfather 1972 is estimated to have been between $2.5 million and $4 million. This was a substantial sum, representing more than 50% of the film's entire production cost. The largest portion of this P&A budget would have been allocated to media buying costs, primarily purchasing expensive primetime TV spots and full-page ads in major newspapers. This was the studio's primary financial gamble after the film was completed. A poorly managed P&A budget could have easily turned a profitable film into a financial loss, regardless of its quality. Now let's look at how that investment turned into revenue. The primary income source was the box office, which is governed by the theatrical revenue split. Typically, the gross box office receipts are split roughly 50-50 between the studio and the theater owners. So, on its massive initial gross of approximately $250 million, Paramount's share, or theatrical rentals, would have been around $125 million. From this share, the studio must first pay the distribution fees, which are the costs for the distributor's services, usually around 30–35%. Since Paramount distributed its own film, this fee was more of an internal operational cost, but it's a crucial part of the financial chain. After these deductions, the remaining revenue is what pays back the production cost and the P&A budget. This is where we can truly appreciate the film's phenomenal marketing spend return on investment (ROI). The marketing campaign was so effective that it turned a high-quality drama into the biggest box office sensation in history. The platform release strategy was a key factor in this success. By opening in only a few theaters, the studio dramatically increased the profit margin per screen. These initial screens in New York were sold out for weeks, generating incredible revenue against a minimal print and distribution cost for those specific locations. This created a highly profitable foundation before the more expensive nationwide rollout. Key stat: with an estimated P&A budget of $3.5 million and a studio share of box office revenue exceeding $125 million, the direct marketing spend return on investment, ROI, was a staggering 35x, a figure that redefined blockbuster profitability. This means that for every single dollar Paramount spent on advertising, it earned back over $35 in profit from the box office alone. This is an almost unprecedented level of efficiency. A carefully managed P&A budget was not just an expense. It was the most profitable investment the studio made, transforming The Godfather 1972 from a successful film into a financial legend. Fans of Goodfellas' genre-defining energy and the gritty realism of the French Connection will find The Godfather 1972 bridges both worlds, delivering blockbuster storytelling moments that rival franchise-level hits now streaming on Netflix, HBO Max, or Disney+. When analyzing The Godfather 1972, it's essential to place it in the context of its time and its genre. This wasn't just a film, it was a landmark that both honored and transcended the crime films that came before it. Its most direct box office competition in 1972 included a diverse slate of hits, from the dazzling musical Cabaret to the epic disaster film The Poseidon Adventure. While those were successful films, The Godfather 1972 operated on a different level, not just entertaining audiences but fundamentally reshaping the cinematic landscape. It didn't just win at the box office. It became a cultural touchstone. When we compare with other films in the crime genre, The Godfather 1972 stands as the patriarch of the modern mob movie. Its closest genre rivals in terms of legacy are arguably Martin Scorsese's masterpieces, Goodfellas and Casino. While Scorsese's films are celebrated for their kinetic style, rapid-fire editing, and focus on the exhilarating street-level lifestyle of mobsters, The Godfather 1972 is more operatic and deliberate. It's a story about the weight of power, a slow-burn tragedy about a family's descent, whereas Goodfellas is a story about the intoxicating rise and spectacular fall. These films are not so much competitors as they are two sides of the same coin, both consistently ranked among the top films in genre and beloved as fan favorites. They offer different but equally brilliant perspectives on the American gangster. Looking at other similar movies, one could point to Sergio Leone's epic Once Upon a Time in America, another sprawling, multi-generational crime saga with a similarly tragic and nostalgic tone. Both films use their long runtimes to explore the deep bonds and bitter betrayals that define their characters' lives over decades. In terms of franchise comparisons, The Godfather 1972 is often mentioned in the same breath as trilogies like Star Wars or The Lord of the Rings. While the genres are worlds apart, the comparison is valid because of the depth of the world building, the iconic nature of the characters, and the sheer quality of the first two installments. Like those sagas, The Godfather 1972 created a universe that fans wanted to return to, a world so rich and detailed that it felt real. Its influence is so pervasive that nearly every serious crime drama made in the last 50 years owes it a creative debt, cementing its place not just as a great film, but as one of the most important and enduring pillars of cinematic history. From a market analyst's perspective, the competitive landscape of 1972 presented both a significant opportunity and a tangible threat for The Godfather 1972. To understand its historic success, we must analyze its market share projection against the backdrop of its competition and assess the saturation risk assessment for the crime genre at the time. This financial breakdown will show how the film didn't just compete, it created its own market. First, let's establish the competitive environment through comparative revenue. The biggest films of 1972 were The Poseidon Adventure, which grossed an impressive $93 million domestically, and Cabaret, which earned a solid $42 million. These were the benchmarks. An optimistic market share projection for a prestige crime drama like The Godfather 1972 would have likely aimed to capture a significant portion of the adult drama market, perhaps targeting a gross of 60 million. The goal would have been to perform like a top-tier drama, not to become the biggest film of all time. The initial market share projection was therefore conservative based on the historical performance of the genre. Next, a budget versus performance analysis reveals the efficiency of its competitors. The Poseidon Adventure was made for an estimated $5 million and grossed $93 million, a fantastic 18x return. This set a high bar for blockbuster profitability. However, the genre return on investment (ROI) average for crime dramas at the time was much more modest. While some gangster films were profitable, they were not typically seen as four-quadrant blockbusters capable of generating that level of return. This brings us to the saturation risk assessment. In the early 70s, the new Hollywood era was in full swing, and gritty, adult-oriented crime films like The French Connection 1971 were popular and critically acclaimed. This presented a double-edged sword. There was a clear audience for the genre, but also a risk that the market could become fatigued. A key question for investors would have been whether The Godfather 1972 could differentiate itself enough to avoid being seen as just another gangster movie, a crucial factor in its saturation risk assessment. The Godfather 1972 defied all expectations by not just capturing a piece of the market, but by expanding the market itself. It drew in audiences who had never been interested in crime films before, appealing to them with its powerful themes of family, loyalty, and tragedy. Its domestic gross of approximately $135 million for its initial run didn't just beat its competitors, it more than doubled the gross of its nearest rival. Key stat. The Godfather 1972 captured an estimated 20–25% of the total domestic box office market share for 1972, a level of single-film dominance rarely seen before or since. This completely redefined the potential market share projection for a prestige drama. It proved that a film could be both a serious work of art and a commercial juggernaut of the highest order. The initial saturation risk assessment proved to be a non-factor because the film's quality was so transcendent that it created its own demand. Ultimately, when calculating a risk-adjusted return on investment (ROI), The Godfather 1972 represents one of the greatest investment outcomes in entertainment history. It faced a competitive market and genre saturation risks, but its superior quality allowed it to shatter every financial benchmark, delivering a return that was and remains the stuff of Hollywood legend, from meme references of its most iconic scene to viral fan clips that sparked massive social media reactions. The Godfather 1972's cultural impact rivals any competitor's pop culture influence, creating fan engagement that lives on through TikTok clips and Reddit theories. While the film itself is a serious drama, its journey into the mainstream has made it one of the most referenced and parodied works of art in history. The iconic moments from The Godfather 1972 have transcended the screen to become a shared cultural language. You don't have to have seen the movie to understand the chilling implication of sleeping with the fishes or the weight of an offer he can't refuse. These fan quotes have become so ingrained in our lexicon that they feel like they've always been there. In today's digital age, this legacy has found a new life online. The film is a constant source of fan-driven content. You'll find countless meme references using the image of Don Corleone or the Puppet Strings logo to comment on everything from politics to pop culture. The infamous horse head scene, while horrifying in context, has been transformed into a darkly comedic meme format. Social media reactions to the film's shocking twists, especially from first-time viewers, often become viral fan clips themselves. Even on platforms like TikTok, you'll find creators using the film's iconic score to add dramatic flair to their videos, introducing a new generation to Nino Rota's masterpiece through modern internet trends. Beyond the memes, there is a deep and ongoing discussion about the film's hidden details and meanings. Subreddits dedicated to the movie are filled with fascinating Reddit theories and dissections of potential Easter eggs. Fans debate the significance of oranges appearing before a death or analyze the subtle shifts in Michael Corleone's behavior frame by frame. This is where the true pop culture influence of The Godfather 1972 shines. It's not just a movie to be watched, it's a text to be studied and debated. There are also endless fun facts that add to its legendary status, like the story of how the cat in the opening scene was a stray that wandered onto the set, its purring so loud it muffled some of Brando's lines. These tidbits of trivia make the world of The Godfather 1972 feel even more real and compelling. This enduring conversation, from lighthearted TikTok clips to deep analytical essays, is a testament to the film's timeless power and its unshakable place at the heart of our shared cultural story. From a financial perspective, cultural impact is not an abstract concept. It is a measurable asset that generates tangible revenue. The organic, fan-driven buzz surrounding The Godfather 1972 is a powerful economic engine. Its value can be analyzed through two primary financial metrics: the direct return from unpaid promotion or viral marketing return on investment (ROI), and the indirect value it adds to the brand, which can be measured as a CPM uplift from engagement. Let's first explore the direct returns. The viral marketing return on investment (ROI) for The Godfather 1972 is, in a word, infinite. The film has benefited from 50 years of free, high-impact advertising generated by its fans. Every meme, every pop culture reference, and every social media discussion serves as an unpaid ad that keeps the film in the public consciousness. If a studio were to try and buy this level of sustained cultural relevance through paid media, the cost would be astronomical, easily running into the hundreds of millions of dollars. For instance, a single viral trend on TikTok can generate billions of impressions. The earned media value of that kind of exposure is immense. This organic buzz directly drives engagement-driven revenue. When a new generation discovers the film through a meme, they are more likely to seek it out on streaming platforms, purchase a digital copy, or buy merchandise. This continuous cycle of discovery and monetization is fueled almost entirely by unpaid fan activity, resulting in a viral marketing return on investment (ROI) that is off the charts. This brings us to the indirect financial benefits, specifically the CPM uplift from engagement. CPM, or cost per mil, is the price an advertiser pays for 1,000 views or impressions. Content associated with highly engaged, premium brands commands a much higher CPM. Because The Godfather 1972 is a universally recognized symbol of quality and prestige, any official content or advertising related to it is more valuable. Key stat: premium entertainment IP with high cultural engagement can see a social media CPM uplift estimated at 5,100% above standard benchmarks. This means advertisers are willing to pay double the price to place their ads alongside official The Godfather 1972 content, because they know they are reaching a dedicated and valuable audience. This CPM uplift from engagement makes every marketing dollar spent by the studio more efficient and every ad slot on their YouTube channel or social pages more profitable. Furthermore, this cultural cachet significantly increases the film's brand partnership value. A brand like The Godfather 1972 is an attractive partner for high-end collaborations. While you won't see a fast food tie-in, a luxury car brand or a high-fashion label might pay a significant fee, potentially in the millions, for a co-branded campaign. This cultural relevance also allows the studio to charge an IP licensing premium. A license for a generic crime movie might fetch a standard royalty rate, but a license for The Godfather 1972 commands a premium because of its prestige. This translates to higher fees for everything from video games to slot machines. This sustained revenue boost from cultural traction is the ultimate financial endgame. The film's legendary status, built over decades of organic fan love, has transformed it from a simple movie into a blue-chip financial asset whose brand equity continues to appreciate over time, from Oscars nominations for its outstanding performances to Golden Globe wins that sparked massive awards buzz. The Godfather 1972's critical acclaim rivals any competitor's film festival highlights, earning a stellar Rotten Tomatoes score and glowing audience ratings across all streaming platforms. The moment The Godfather 1972 was released, it was met with a wave of near-universal praise from critic reviews. Reviewers of the era hailed it as a groundbreaking masterpiece, a profound evolution of the gangster genre, and an instant American classic. This wasn't just a hit movie, it was immediately recognized as a significant work of art. This chorus of positive critic reviews was the spark that lit the fire of the film's initial box office success, assuring audiences that this dark, 3-hour epic was worth their time and money, solidifying its status as a must-watch film. The awards buzz began almost immediately and culminated in a dominant awards season run. The film received a staggering 11 Oscars nominations, including nods for Best Director for Francis Ford Coppola and 3 separate nominations in the Best Supporting Actor category for Al Pacino, James Caan, and Robert Duvall. These award-winning performances were at the heart of the film's success. But the biggest prizes of the night were the wins for Best Adapted Screenplay and the coveted Best Picture award. This Oscar win cemented the legacy of The Godfather 1972 forever. The film also swept the Golden Globe wins, taking home 5 awards including Best Motion Picture Drama. This avalanche of recognition from the industry's most prestigious bodies validated what audiences already knew: they were witnessing a truly special film. Decades later, the film's critical standing has not diminished in the slightest. Its Rotten Tomatoes score stands at a near-perfect 97%, a testament to its enduring quality. But just as importantly, the audience scores are equally impressive. On platforms like IMDb, it holds a 9.2 out of 10, consistently ranking it among the top 2 top-rated movies of all time, as voted by millions of viewers. These glowing audience ratings show that the film's power transcends critical analysis. It connects with people on a deep, emotional level. While it was never a staple of the international festivals circuit in the same way an independent art film might be, The Godfather 1972 is now a frequent feature at nostalgic film festival highlights and retrospective screenings, where it is celebrated as a pillar of the New Hollywood movement. This combination of initial awards dominance and sustained critical and audience adoration is a rare feat, and it's a key reason why The Godfather 1972 is not just a classic, but a true cinematic immortal. From a financial analyst's perspective, awards and critical acclaim are not just about prestige, they are powerful financial catalysts. For The Godfather 1972, the universal praise and prestigious awards acted as a massive return on investment (ROI) multiplier, significantly magnifying the profitability of the initial investment. This success can be broken down into the upfront cost of chasing awards, the immediate revenue boost from winning, and the long-term value created by the critical acclaim multiplier. First, it's important to acknowledge the investment. Today, a major award campaign cost for a film vying for Best Picture can be an enormous expense, often ranging from $5 million to over $15 million. These campaigns involve extensive advertising in trade publications, hosting private screenings for guild members, and sophisticated public relations efforts. In 1972, these costs were significantly lower but still represented a real investment for the studio. Paramount would have spent a modest but strategic sum on its For Your Consideration campaign. The financial genius here is that the overwhelming quality of the film did most of the work, making the award campaign cost incredibly efficient. The immediate financial return on this investment is the post-award revenue boost. Historically, a nomination for a major award and especially a win provides a significant and measurable bump at the box office. For a film in the 1970s, winning the Oscar for Best Picture was the most powerful marketing tool imaginable. It would have driven a second wave of theatrical attendance from audiences who may have missed it the first time. Key stat: based on historical industry data, a Best Picture Oscar win in that era could provide a post-award revenue boost of an estimated $10 million to $20 million in additional domestic box office revenue. This award-driven revenue is a direct and immediate return on the campaign investment. It's a clear example of how an award win functions as a powerful return on investment (ROI) multiplier, taking an already successful film and pushing its profits into the stratosphere. Beyond the box office, the long-term value is even more significant. This is where the critical acclaim multiplier comes into play. A film crowned Best Picture becomes a permanent blue-chip asset in a studio's library. This prestige allows the studio to engage in prestige pricing. When negotiating television broadcast rights or, in modern times, streaming monetization deals, a Best Picture winner can command a much higher licensing fee than a comparable film without that accolade. This critical acclaim multiplier results in a tangible streaming royalty bump and more favorable terms in every negotiation. It elevates the film from a mere piece of content to a piece of cultural heritage, and that heritage has a quantifiable market value. Ultimately, the awards and acclaim received by The Godfather 1972 were not just trophies for a shelf. They were crucial financial instruments that locked in the film's long-term value, ensuring it would be a highly profitable asset for Paramount Pictures for decades to come. The return on investment (ROI) multiplier from the Oscar win didn't just boost the box office. It transformed the film's entire financial future as The Godfather 1972 cements its film legacy with franchise potential that rivals any competitor's universe expansion. Fans speculate on sequels and spin-off ideas, while the director's next projects and upcoming movies hint at a thrilling future. The conclusion of the first film was so powerful that it didn't just invite a sequel, it demanded one. The franchise potential was immediately realized with the release of The Godfather 1972 Part II in 1974, a film that is not only considered one of the greatest sequels of all time, but is argued by many to have surpassed the original. This sequel brilliantly expanded the story both forward and backward, continuing Michael's tragic story while also showing the rise of a young Vito Corleone. The story was eventually concluded with The Godfather 1972 Part III in 1990, and more recently re-edited by the director into a new version, cementing the saga as a true trilogy. Even with the main story told, the world of The Godfather 1972 is so rich that fan anticipation for a universe expansion has never faded. For decades, fans have debated countless spin-off ideas. What would a series centered on the hot-headed but loyal Sonny Corleone look like before his demise? Could there be a political thriller following the complex life of Tom Hagen as he navigates the worlds of law and crime? Many rumored plotlines have circulated over the years, with the most popular often focusing on the next generation, particularly Vincent Corleone, who took the mantle at the end of Part III. This constant speculation is a sign of a truly powerful film legacy. The world is so compelling that audiences are desperate for any reason to return to it. The cinematic impact of The Godfather 1972 cannot be overstated. It elevated the gangster genre to high art, influenced a generation of filmmakers, and set a new standard for storytelling. The director's next projects after its success, including masterpieces like The Conversation and Apocalypse Now, were made possible by the artistic and commercial clout he gained from this film, marking one of the greatest creative periods for any director in history. Even his upcoming movies like the long-awaited epic Megalopolis carry a special weight and fan anticipation because of the towering legacy he built with The Godfather 1972. While a direct continuation of the Corleone saga seems unlikely, the franchise has found new life in other forms. The recent Paramount Plus series The Offer, which dramatizes the chaotic making of the original film, is a perfect example of a modern franchise roadmap, one that explores the lore and legacy without directly touching the core story. It proves that even 50 years later, the franchise potential of The Godfather 1972 is still finding new and exciting ways to be explored. In our final investor summary, we move beyond individual revenue streams to conduct a cumulative yield analysis of The Godfather 1972 as a total financial asset. The story of this IP is one of an initial modest investment that was magnified over 50 years by a series of powerful return on investment (ROI) multiplier events, resulting in one of the most successful examples of franchise lifecycle profitability in entertainment history. The first and most significant return on investment (ROI) multiplier was the success of the original film itself, which delivered a return of over 4,000%. However, this was just the first step. The second major return on investment (ROI) multiplier was the sequel, The Godfather 1972 Part II. While produced on a higher budget of around $13 million, it was also a massive critical and commercial success, generating hundreds of millions in revenue and winning the Oscar for Best Picture. This sequel didn't just add to the franchise's earnings, it solidified the brand's prestige, which in turn increased the value of the original film's library rights. Every successful sequel acts as a return on investment (ROI) multiplier not just for its own budget but for the entire back catalog. This leads to the crucial metric of long-term franchise return on investment (ROI). The initial 4,000% return is a fraction of the total picture. When conducting a full cumulative yield analysis including the box office of 3 films, 5 decades of record-breaking television and home video sales, merchandise, video games, and modern streaming licenses, the long-term franchise return on investment (ROI) on that initial $6 million investment is likely in the tens of thousands of percent. The total IP lifecycle value for an asset as prestigious and enduring as The Godfather 1972 could be conservatively estimated to be in the range of $1 billion to $2 billion. This places it in the upper echelon of Hollywood's most valuable properties. Of course, this journey was not without risk. The sequel investment risk became apparent with The Godfather 1972 Part III. Made for a much larger budget of over $50 million, its box office return was solid but not spectacular, and its mixed critical reception demonstrated the immense danger of audience fatigue or creative missteps. This is a key lesson in franchise lifecycle profitability. As a franchise ages, the budgets tend to increase while the potential for an exponential return on investment (ROI) multiplier often decreases. Key stat: a legacy sequel produced decades after the original often faces a sequel investment risk that is 5 to 10 times higher than the original film, due to inflated budgets and the high bar of audience expectations. Ultimately, the final cumulative yield analysis for The Godfather 1972 reveals it to be a blue-chip financial asset. The initial investment has been paid back thousands of times over through a series of compounding revenue streams. The original film was the seed, the sequels were the first powerful return on investment (ROI) multiplier, and the decades of ancillary revenue from legacy revenue streams have ensured its place as a perpetual profit center for Paramount. It stands as the ultimate testament to the financial power of a single brilliant idea executed to perfection.
Is Michael Corleone a villain or a hero? This question has divided Godfather fans for decades, and the answer isn't simple. When you look at Michael Corleone character development, you see one of cinema's most complex transformations from war hero to crime boss. Michael Corleone villain analysis starts with who he was at the beginning. In The Godfather Part I, Michael is the golden boy, a decorated Marine who wants nothing to do with his family's criminal empire. He's the one who says, "That's my family, Kay, not me." This makes him relatable to Godfather movie fans because we all want to believe we could walk away from darkness if it touched our family. But here's where Michael Corleone character arc gets interesting. The Godfather movie ending shows us the pivotal moment when Michael becomes the new Don. When his father Vito is shot, Michael steps up to protect the family. Godfather fans debate whether this was noble protection or the first step toward corruption. Michael Corleone transformation from reluctant outsider to ruthless leader happens gradually, which makes him more tragic than simply evil. Is Michael Corleone evil when he kills Sollozzo and McCluskey? Many argue this was self-defense and protection of his family. Godfather character analysis shows Michael as a man forced into violence, not someone who seeks it. This is why Godfather movie fans often sympathize with him initially. He's responding to threats against people he loves. However, Michael Corleone's villainous acts become undeniable as the saga continues. By The Godfather Part 2, we see him ordering the murder of his own brother Fredo. This moment, when Michael coldly tells Fredo, "I know it was you," shows how far he's fallen. Godfather fans who think Michael is a villain point to this as the moment he crossed the line from protector to monster. Michael Corleone character development in The Godfather Part 3 completes his transformation into a true villain. His manipulation of his nephew Vincent, his involvement in corrupt business dealings, and his cold calculation of murders show someone who has embraced evil completely. Is Michael Corleone a bad guy by the end? The evidence suggests yes. Godfather movie analysis reveals that Michael's villainy isn't just about the murders. It's about how he destroys everything good around him. His marriage to Kay falls apart because he becomes someone she can't recognize. His relationship with his children becomes strained and ultimately tragic. Michael Corleone's impact on family shows how his villainous choices poison everything he touches. The Godfather character study of Michael Corleone demonstrates how power corrupts. He starts with good intentions, protecting his family, but becomes consumed by the need for control and revenge. Godfather fans who hate Michael Corleone argue that his descent into villainy was inevitable once he chose the criminal path, while others believe he was forced into it by circumstances. Michael Corleone's villain characteristics include his increasing paranoia, his willingness to kill anyone who threatens him, and his ability to justify evil acts as necessary for business. He becomes what Godfather movie fans call a sympathetic villain, someone whose motivations we can understand even when we condemn his actions. The Godfather Part 1 sets up Michael as a reluctant hero, which makes his fall more tragic. Godfather fans love Michael in the first movie because he represents hope that someone can resist the family's criminal legacy. But The Godfather Part 2 and The Godfather Part 3 show how that hope was ultimately false. Michael Corleone villain analysis must consider his intelligence and strategic thinking. Unlike other mob bosses who act on emotion, Michael is calculating and methodical. This makes him more dangerous and, arguably, more villainous. He knows exactly what he's doing when he makes his evil choices. Godfather character development shows Michael becoming increasingly isolated as he embraces villainy. By the end, he has no real friends, his family is destroyed, and he dies alone, a fitting end for someone whose villainous choices led to his own destruction. The Godfather movie fans who still sympathize with Michael point to his love for his family as evidence that he's not entirely evil. But Godfather analysis shows that his definition of family protection becomes twisted and destructive. True love doesn't require turning yourself into a monster. Michael Corleone's villainous legacy in the Godfather trilogy serves as a cautionary tale about how good intentions can lead to evil outcomes. His transformation from war hero to crime boss represents the corruption of the American dream. The idea that protecting family and building power can justify any means. Is Michael Corleone a villain? The answer is yes, but he's a complex villain whose journey from reluctant outsider to ruthless boss makes him one of cinema's most compelling anti-heroes. Godfather fans continue to debate whether his villainy was born from necessity or inherent darkness, but the evidence of his evil acts is undeniable by the saga's end. The Godfather character of Michael Corleone remains relevant today because his story shows how anyone can become a villain when they believe their cause justifies any action. This is why Godfather movie analysis continues to fascinate audiences. It shows the thin line between hero and villain, protector and destroyer.